was already a few weeks along and didn't know. One thing about me, introverted or not, is that I'm not pushed over and will stand up for myself. But I chose to ignore Jess because I knew that would get to her more than confronting her would, since she seems to thrive off drama. Jess was much further along than we are. However, we did have our gender reveal before Jess giving birth. And right on cue, the baby name interrogation started again. Because they decided not to find out the gender of their baby in advance, Jess kept hounding us for both of the names we had already picked out. But again, we declined to answer. After days of this, I got annoyed and asked Kevin if he thought her insistence was so she could use the name first since she was due first. He kinda chuckled until he realized I was serious and said he didn't think so but that anything was possible. So I said, let's test it. We were due to host my father-in-law's birthday at our house a couple of weeks later, so we decided to leave something in the unfinished nursery with a girl and boy name on it and see if Jess went snooping. Because Kevin thought it was silly, he said he would give me $20 if she did it. So I went onto some site where you can order custom name wall decals and put in Aria Rose and Sebastian Ali. We like these names, but they aren't remotely close to what we chose. This will also be our last pregnancy, so we wouldn't care even if Jess used them. I didn't complete the order. I got to the final page, printed it out, and hid it in a dresser drawer in the nursery. The party goes off, but because we were busy hosting, we never noticed if Jess disappeared for an extended period. When I entered the nursery the next morning, nothing was out of place, and the order sheet was still in the exact location, so we both just went bail and forgot about it. I did, however, notice that Jess never asked us about the names again. Then Jess gives birth. We went to the hospital to give our congrats. When we saw the baby, I asked his name and man, I cannot properly explain the poop-eating grin that came over Jess' face as she said, Sebastian Ali. She was proud of herself. Honestly, it's the most vindictive I have ever seen her look in the years I've known her. But instead of reacting as she had expected, I performed like I had graduated from Juilliard. Oh my god, that's such a great name. He's so cute. Look at his whittle face. Oh, I just love him so much. Welcome to the world, Sebastian. Auntie is gonna spoil you rotten. I mean, I am laying it on thick without bothering anyone. The range of emotions on Jess' face went from shock to confusion to rage in maybe 17 seconds. Meanwhile, my husband is holding in the laugh of the century. We later say our goodbyes and he gives me a 20 in the elevator while almost crying laughing. All I could say was, like I thought. This was 2 weeks ago and we haven't seen them since because we wanted to give them time to settle in with the new baby. My mother-in-law told me that Jess doesn't seem as thrilled about motherhood as she thought she would be, considering how long it took them to conceive, but said it might just be baby blues. I think she's just disappointed that her petty move didn't have the desired effect on us. I shared this with my sister, and while she laughed initially, she said it was kind of an a-hole move. So, am I the asshole here? Update, 11 days later. I haven't seen or heard from Jess since that day in the hospital. Terrence also hasn't communicated much with Kevin other than sports talk. However, my mother-in-law has been with them almost every day. She came over yesterday to go over some last-minute things for our baby shower that we are having on Saturday after Halloween. I am not due till late January, but with the holidays and twins tending to arrive early, we just wanted to get it out of the way. Anyway, after finalizing some things, I asked mother-in-law how Terrence and Jess were doing. She sighed, leaned back in her chair, and said, "Girl, it's a mess." She goes on a long word vomit that I will have to summarize. They've been at it since before the baby was born. When discussing names, Jess' list only consisted of girl names. When Terrence asked what if it's a boy, Jess was adamant that it wouldn't be, but if it was, they would just use Terrence Jr. This caused an argument because Terrence's 11-yo is not named after him, and it would be petty to name the second son a junior unbeknownst to me. Jess was having severe anxiety over not the name, but the gender of their baby, so much so that she refused to find out early because she was afraid of disappointment. She wanted to enjoy her pregnancy, believing she was having a girl. She really wanted a girl. I mean wanted a girl. This goes back to mother-in-law in my opinion. Mother-in-law is the only girl of 4 brothers. She had 3 boys. 2 of her 3 boys have boys. Then, my daughter came along. Mother-in-law broke down in tears at our gender reveal. Since the day she was born, mother-in-law has become a little obsessed with her lol. Not in a Jamil way. She knows and respects boundaries, but the whole family knows that my daughter is mother-in-law's favorite person in the world. I think Jess thought that by having a girl, she would get that same attention and affection from mother-in-law, as she has never been Jess' biggest fan. When that didn't happen, something short-circuited in her head. Mother-in-law's words, not mine. Before we arrived at the hospital that day, they were still fighting over a name, so I guess when I showed up, she just blurted it out. While I still think it was to hurt me, it seems like it was also because she didn't allow herself to think of anything else because she didn't want a boy. I said in the first post how I noticed her expression. However, I completely failed to notice Terrence's. He was pissed. Jess had never mentioned that name to him prior and he had no clue where it came from. He also hated it. He refused to sign off on that, and they left the hospital without a name. In our state, you only have 7 days to register a name from birth. She eventually told Terrence to pick the name himself and that she didn't care anymore. So he did. He swapped out Sebastian for Jordan but kept Ali. According to mother-in-law, Jess has shut down emotionally since they've been home. She's been doing all the motherly things, but there's a disconnect. Mother-in-law said she finally broke down to her a few nights ago that she'll likely never have a daughter due to her age and what it took to get pregnant in the first place. That will bring them closer since mother-in-law never got the daughter she wanted either. I also felt bad hearing that because regardless of how I feel about her as a person, I do have a heart and would never want to punch down on her if she's in the throes of PPD. Jess still hasn't admitted to snooping, so I haven't admitted to setting her up. A few comments said I should never confess, but I think I will eventually. Mainly because I don't care lol. I am more than willing to burn a bridge while still standing on it, but now simply isn't the time.